Hey folks, back with ancient cosmography. So I'm studying the Celtic story of Diarmid mac Dúin versus the boar, the great boar. And I suspect that Diarmid mac Dúin actually, at least in one of his guises, in one of his forms, is Papua, aka New Guinea. And he is described in one verse as being an eagle or a hawk or something, even though he's basically a man also. He has like human body because he's able to like wield swords and stuff. So, and Papua's kind of head is actually called Bird's Head region. So whereas he seemed to have been depicted in the Lascaux shaft as a birdman. So anyway, just to get into that more, so it's basically Papua as the birdman versus Australia as the great boar. And so this is Australia here, and this is a boar, wild boar. And so it seems, that not only does the snout of the boar fit well for Cape York, but also the Great Barrier Reef fits somewhat for a boar's mane. The boar's, like a male boar's mane of stiff bristles, which are, mostly in that area, kind of top of the head to the middle of the back. So that, in this case, you could say it doesn't entirely match in that technically these reefs continue on all the way to here. But, at least the way that the reef goes out further up here certainly matches that it's bigger around that area of their body. And it says explicitly in the story that, or it seems to say that, that the boar, the way that Finn McCool kills Diarmid mac Dúin is by tricking him into measuring the boar. First he measures it down from the snout, and it's no problem. Then he's measuring it along the back, still no problem. But then Finn McCool says, measure back this way against the hairs. And then when he goes back against the hairs, and I think these bristles do technically kind of point backwards, even if they mostly point up on an actual boar. So when he's going against the hairs, then he gets stuck by one particular quill, but that quill actually seems to be the quill that's right between Australia and Papua, which is Great Barrier Reef. So yeah, it's fairly anatomically correct in that sense, and the placement of the quills, the bristles, as the Great Barrier Reef. So that's another reason why probably he was cast as a boar. This is the same thing, just zooming in on the tip of the snout, which is really the most boar-like shape of the actual snout, and then showing Papua above with New Britain and New Ireland and the Solomon Islands. So, like this, it's very much like a pig's boar's snout. And then here, I suspect that this is actually the boar's tusk, one of its tusks, because it's like pointy right there. So I think that's one tusk thingy. And I think this might be his lower jaw, because this kind of looks like a boar or a pig's kind of chin and lower lip. And then up here is just, I don't know where this would be, his ear or whatever. But yeah, I think this fits well. And so yeah, you know, like if you look at the shape of this and compare to like the shape of this, it makes sense why they would depict this as a boar, because you can see how the top of the snout protrudes often in a boar, and it's kind of concave, or you know, like you know, there's kind of an indent in the middle of this, of the tip of the snout, and then it sticks out on the top, so it fits very well for the boar. This boar, I think you can't see the tusk thing if he has it, because it's covered with hair or something, but you can see these guys, and so potentially these, you know, like these would be those bristles right here, these reefs, part of the Great Barrier Reef. And it was a great barrier to Diarmid Macoduin, thanks to Finn McCool. There's another wild boar. So yeah, again, you have this big mane that kind of starts in the middle of the back, where it really, its height is between like the middle of the back and the top of the head. And more of these guys. Wild boar. Large males can reach brown bear-like sizes, weighing 270 kilograms, 600 pounds, and measuring 110 to 118 centimeters, 43 to 46 inches in shoulder height. Some adult males in Ussuriland and Manchuria have been recorded to weigh 300 to 350 kilograms, 660 to 770 pounds, and measure 100. So this is what he was doing, measuring the boar. It's a delicate business if you're measuring a magic boar, especially that's actually Australia. Such giants are rare in modern times due to past overhunting preventing animals from attaining their full growth. The winter coat consists of long, coarse bristles. So that's just like in the Diarmid Macoduin story about the coarse bristles, underlaid with short brown downy fur. The length of these bristles varies along the body, with the shortest being around the face and limbs, and the longest running along the back. So that's clearly not true, or it's not exactly true. It says the longest running along the back, but it's really the longest are, or at least seems to be, starting at right on the top of the head, basically, and then going to midway on the back, basically, wherever this is. So to me, if I just pictured they're on the back, then I would think they would start here and go to here or something. But instead, they're much more towards the front, so that fits with Australia. And these back bristles form the aforementioned mane, prominent in males, and stand erect when the animal is agitated. So that's part of the story too. Like the bristles stands erect when it before it kills Diarmid Mako. Color is highly variable. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So fits, anatomically correct. So here's like a modern depiction, I guess, of Diarmid versus the great boar. So we can see that the boar is much larger than Diarmid, which fits, of course, for Australia and Papua. Well, Papua isn't that small as it seems here, but it's certainly smaller than Australia. So yeah, here I just put eyes on them. And so yeah, Papua is like the Birdman. Australia is the Great Boar. With his upper lip sticking up. And here maybe you can see one of the tusks. So that would be like this tusk, or like these kind of tusks, but sometimes they're more on the bottom. That's basically the same thing. Here's the same thing, but with featuring Papua more prominently, and Australia small. And these are the three hands of Finn McCool trying to save Diarmid's life, but then being like psych and just letting the healing water like run through his fingers right in front of his face, like while he dies. Pretty twisted gods. Like the gods are like not I mean, they're symbolic metaphors, but they're not like moral or benevolent per se. They're very human, because that's the point, anthropomorphism. So yeah, this just shows them actually together, and I tried to kind of it's like the eyes, sometimes it won't let me shrink it depending on what type of image it is. It will only let me shrink it so small. So this was me trying to fit these eyes onto these two guys in the same picture. Kind of worked. So this is the main, well, I guess it doesn't exactly show here, but nearby is the warrior reef, which is the bristle that actually kills Diarmid. There's the outer space land, curvature of the earth, and that's kind of the same concept from the other side, from the Papuan side. And like together, these guys take up an area like the size of like South America or something. It's pretty big, I would think. So yeah, here's another one. Maybe I'll flip it to make it larger. So here he goes. He's measuring the boar. Then he gets stuck by the warrior reef, which I think is right here. Yeah, basically right there. And it sticks him, and now he's bleeding out and dying and shit. Well, I guess they're They both die in the story. And so, this is his, it seems to be the same avatar as in the Lascaux shaft, where his legs are New Britain, his feet are New Ireland and the Solomon Islands, so he has really long feet. And then he also, what they say about long feet, he also has, Papua Peninsula here. And I think he's like jizzing right there, yeah. And this part, it may relate to these things because he shoots this spear at Australia, the Wessel Islands, which break into three as they are. And then he pulls the sword, which seems to be this other island next to it, wider island, out of the sheath, which is also another island adjacent. And then he shoots these out from his side. So I think that it may be that this island, I forget what it's called, is represents the sword, and that these skinnier peninsulas, whatever here, the skinnier peninsula might represent the tip of the spear coming out. Hard to be totally sure on that. But, and then this is like the, Australia is bleeding out through like Van Diemen Gulf. All this sediment, I think, represents the blood, just like in all these estuaries here. That's like blood coming out of these dead gods. So, this is in Chile. See, I think this is Chonos Archipelago, and then this, forgetting the name of it, but it's like right nearby, just north of Chonos, and they seem to be gatekeepers in the ancient Egyptian Book of Two Ways of I forget if it's Sepi or Jehudi Hotep, but I just like putting eyes on them to make it official. And see, I realized that, well, this is Iceland, but it seems that in the Celtic stories, it seems to talk about Iceland and as being a tree with a stag in its trunk. At the base of the tree, there's a stag. So I think that Iceland is the tree, like, here's the trunk, here's the tree. And so the stag being this guy, like here's the horns, the antlers, here's his head, here's his front legs and back legs. So anyway, I just found it funny to realize that the capital of the country is his dick, just as London is like the butthole of Finn McCool. And even my clan Campbell's capital is like Finn McCool's armpit, I think. What can you do? But yeah, Reykjavik is definitely the stag's dick. It's important stuff. I mean, literally, if you memorize this, you might be able to sail around Iceland, and you'll know what side is what, and you'll know where the dick is, and you'll know where Reykjavik is. And it kind of looks like a dick. Not gonna lie. Good place for a capital. This is in Iceland, a place called Bridge Between Continents, which is interesting, since in the Norse and many mythologies, there's talk about the bridge between the worlds, the upper world and the underworld, which I often wondered if that referred to Iceland, basically the semi-land bridge of, island hopping from, Scotland to the Faroes to Iceland to Greenland to Newfoundland or whatnot. And see, I've been studying the Australian Aboriginal song lines that are these ancient spell songs that contain all the information about different geography, which I think are basically the same as the Egyptian books of the dead and these Celtic stories too. So I'm trying to figure out how the whole system of codes works. I think it's like usually one line will be about the terrain to the right, and then the next line will be about the terrain to the left. And then the rhythm represents the texture of the terrain. So I'm not sure if this is actually this, because I know there are parenti lizard dreaming tracks in Australia, but I just saw this and saw, well, that would certainly match, because some of these, these dreaming tracks, song lines, are based on shapes of things, just like the Egyptian and all these other anthrozoomorphic avatars. Jesus replied, "Verily, very truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless they are born again." So this could mean that the kingdom of God is America, because traditionally America was seen as the land of the gods and the land of death and rebirth. So he could be saying, like, basically the kingdom of God is America, and since it's the land of death and rebirth, just by going there, you're basically being born again. You die in the western horizon, crossing the ocean just like the sun dies each night, and then you're reborn in the divine land. Neterker. Let's see, this is something from my grandpa, James Bernard Campbell. He was